Chosen one, pause right here. You are not watching this by accident, and you did not arrive at this moment by coincidence. You were led, drawn, positioned by divine appointment. On this sacred day, the 4th of January, heaven has marked this exact moment on its calendar for you. This is not ordinary time. This is appointed time, a Kairos moment. Chosen one. There are seasons when God works quietly behind the scenes, and then there are moments when he speaks clearly and moves decisively. This is one of those moments. You are standing at the edge of a supernatural shift, one that can unfold today, tonight, or in the coming hours. What has felt delayed is now aligning. What has felt silent is about to speak. Anointed one, Scripture reminds us that there is a vision for an appointed time, and though it may seem to wait, it will surely come, as written in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. The waiting was not punishment, it was preparation. And as Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 declares, there is a time for everything, and this is your time. If something is stirring in your spirit right now, that's not emotion, that's recognition. Heaven is near. God is activating, releasing, and repositioning. So take a breath. Still your thoughts. Open your heart. Chosen one, this is not just a message, it is an awakening. Chosen one, stay right here. Not because of me, but because something holy is unfolding in this very pause. This is not background noise in your day. This is a moment heaven marked before you ever pressed play. I know life doesn't always slow down long enough for clarity, but right now, clarity is reaching for you. This is one of those rare intersections where timing and obedience meet, where heaven doesn't shout, but speaks with weight. I want you to hear this gently and clearly. You are not behind, you are not late, and you are not overlooked. What you've been walking through has not been random struggle or endless delay. It has been preparation with intention. There are seasons when God works loudly, and then there are seasons when he works deeply. You've been in the deep work, and now something is shifting. Chosen one, there are moments when your spirit recognizes truth before your mind can explain it. If something inside you feels alert right now, almost still, almost aware, that's not emotion, that's alignment. Scripture reminds us that there is a time for everything, a season for every purpose under heaven, and some seasons don't announce themselves with fireworks. They arrive quietly, carrying authority. This is one of those seasons. I've learned something through my own life that I need to share with you. The hardest moments, the ones where nothing seems to move, where effort doesn't equal reward, those are often the moments right before release. I remember seasons where I kept showing up, kept believing, kept doing the right thing, and nothing changed, or at least nothing changed on the outside. But later, I realized something was being rearranged inside me. My endurance was being trained, my discernment was sharpening, my motives were being purified. Chosen one, delay does not mean denial, and silence does not mean absence. What you've been carrying, the quiet weight, the unspoken responsibility, the pressure to keep going without visible confirmation, none of it was wasted. Heaven has been watching not just what you prayed, but how you waited. There is authority formed in waiting that cannot be formed any other way. Right now, heaven is leaning in, not to test you, but to trust you. There is a difference. Anointed one, I want you to understand this. Divine transfer does not begin when circumstances change. It begins when alignment is complete. That's why some breakthroughs arrive suddenly, not because they were rushed, but because they were ready. Scripture speaks of a vision that waits for its appointed time, and when that time comes, it does not delay. That principle is active in your life right now. You may not see it yet, but something has already been authorized. I'm not just talking about spiritual encouragement. I'm talking about real shifts, financial provision that no longer feels blocked, opportunities that stop resisting you, doors that open without you forcing them. I've seen this happen in my own life. Moments where nothing made sense logically, but favor began responding to obedience instead of effort. Where provision came not because I pushed harder, but because I finally stopped striving and stayed aligned. Chosen one, heaven does not respond to desperation. It responds to surrender. And surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting timing more than control. It means staying faithful, even when outcomes aren't visible yet. You've done that, even when you were tired, even when you questioned yourself, even when you wondered if it was worth it. That's why this moment carries weight. Right now, the spiritual atmosphere around you is changing, not dramatically, but decisively. Confusion is losing its grip. Anxiety is loosening its hold. The noise that once distracted you is beginning to quiet. And in that quiet, direction is forming. I want you to pause for just a second and breathe. Not because you're weak, but because you're transitioning. There is a difference between exhaustion and release. Exhaustion drains, release lifts. And what you're feeling right now is the beginning of lifting. Chosen one, hear this clearly. You were never meant to live in survival mode forever. Survival was a chapter, not the conclusion. The pressure you endured was not punishment, it was refinement. And refinement always precedes promotion. This is why distractions often get louder right before breakthrough. Not because you're failing, but because you're close. Stay present. Stay attentive. Don't rush ahead. Don't scroll past this moment, internally or externally. The appointed hour is not loud, but it is precise. In the next part, we're going to talk about what is actually being transferred in this season, and why it could only be entrusted to someone who walked the road you walked. Stay with me. The shift has already begun. Chosen one, what you have been feeling lately is not confusion, it is compression. And compression always comes before release. There is a spiritual principle that few people talk about, but you have lived it. The closer you get to purpose, the more pressure increases. Not because something is wrong, but because something valuable is being formed. I want to speak to the part of you that has been tired in ways rest couldn't fix. You've waited longer than you thought you would. You've held on when letting go would have been easier. You've watched others move ahead while you stayed still, faithful, unseen, and quietly exhausted. And if you're honest, there were moments you wondered if heaven had forgotten your address. But hear me clearly now, anointed one. Waiting was not wasted time. Waiting was weight training. There are things God will never rush, because rushing would ruin them. Some blessings collapse when given too early. Some authority cannot be sustained without depth. That is why your process felt slow. God was not withholding from you. He was protecting what He placed inside you. I've walked through seasons where nothing seemed to move, where prayers felt unanswered and obedience felt unrewarded. And in hindsight, those seasons saved me. They taught me restraint. They stripped me of ego. They forced me to learn how to trust God without applause. And that kind of trust changes you. It builds something unshakable. Chosen one, you were not being punished. You were being prepared. The pressure you endured refined your discernment. The loneliness clarified your identity. The closed doors redirected your focus. You didn't just survive those moments. You absorbed wisdom from them. And now, that wisdom is becoming authority. This is why what's coming next will feel different. Not louder, not chaotic, but solid, stable, grounded. Heaven does not release real power to people who still need validation. And that's why the waiting stayed until pride lost its voice, until comparison stopped driving you, until your faith no longer depended on outcomes. That's when alignment locked in. Anointed one, the weight you carried trained you to hold more. Right now, the atmosphere around your life is shifting. Because your capacity has changed. You're not reacting the same way anymore. Things that used to trigger you no longer have the same grip. Conversations that once drained you now feel optional. Drama has lost its appeal. That's not disinterest, it's elevation. God is repositioning you internally before he repositions you externally. This is why some relationships started feeling heavy, why certain environments felt smaller, why old habits stopped fitting. You weren't losing anything, you were outgrowing it. And outgrowing always feels uncomfortable before it feels freeing. Chosen one, the waiting season taught you something essential: how to stand without leaning on outcomes, how to remain faithful without guarantees. That kind of faith moves heaven. Scripture speaks of an appointed time, a moment when what was delayed suddenly accelerates, not gradually, suddenly. And when that moment comes, it doesn't ask permission from past seasons. It overrides them. You are approaching that moment now. I want you to notice something subtle. The fear that once whispered constantly has quieted, not disappeared, but softened. The anxiety that used to rush your decisions is slowing down. The urgency to prove yourself is fading. That's because you're no longer moving from insecurity, you're moving from assignment. Chosen one. Assignment attracts provision. What you're stepping into next is not random opportunity, it is authorized movement. And authorized movement does not require force. Doors open because they recognize alignment. Resources respond because timing is complete. People connect because purpose is active. This is where supernatural transfer begins. Not when you ask louder, but when heaven says, now. I've seen moments where one conversation changed everything. One decision unlocked provision. One season shifted an entire future. And those moments didn't come when I was striving. They came when I was aligned, anointed. One, alignment is happening for you right now. The waiting taught you patience, but the next season will teach you stewardship. Because what's coming will require wisdom, not just faith. It will require boundaries, not just belief. It will require discernment, not just desire. That's why the waiting lasted as long as it did. And here's something important I need you to hear. The struggle did not disqualify you, it qualified you. The very things you thought would hold you back are now the reasons heaven trusts you. In the next part, we're going to talk about the shift from preparation into power, what it means, how it feels, and why it won't look the way you expected. Stay here. You are closer than you realize. Chosen one, there is a moment when preparation ends and permission begins. It's quiet. It doesn't announce itself with noise or spectacle. But everything changes once it arrives. That moment is not triggered by effort, it is triggered by alignment. And alignment is where you are now. I need you to understand this. Heaven does not move on human urgency. Heaven moves on readiness. And readiness is not about how badly you want it, it's about how well you can carry it. There were seasons when you prayed for speed, and God answered with depth. You asked for movement, and he gave you stillness. You asked for answers, and he taught you how to listen. At the time, it felt like delay. But delay was mercy, because what's coming requires clarity, not chaos. Chosen one, heaven has been watching how you handle pressure in private, how you speak when no one is applauding, how you respond when doors don't open immediately, and what heaven saw was maturity forming where desperation once lived. That is why the authorization is being released now. Authorization is different from opportunity. Opportunity can come early, authorization never does. Authorization comes when your character matches your calling, when your identity is anchored, not reactive, when your faith is steady, not seasonal. And here's the shift you're beginning to feel. You're no longer chasing outcomes, you're following instruction. That's why you felt a pull toward simplicity, toward quiet decisions, toward clarity over clutter. God has been refining your focus because focus determines flow. What you focus on multiplies, and heaven is narrowing your focus so that power can increase. I've learned this the hard way. There were times I wanted everything at once: answers, success, relief, recognition. And God lovingly withheld, not to frustrate me, but to protect me from fragmentation. Fragmented people leak power. Centered people carry authority. Chosen one, authority is settling into your spirit now. This is why some old ambitions are losing their shine. Not because they were wrong, but because they were incomplete. God is not reducing your vision, He's refining it. What once felt urgent is being replaced with what is essential. And when essentials take priority, provision follows. You are stepping into a season where things line up faster than before. But not because you're moving faster, because resistance is lifting. Resistance lifts when heaven removes opposition that no longer has legal access. That access was tied to old versions of you. Versions that doubted, versions that needed approval, versions that reacted emotionally instead of responding spiritually. But that version is no longer in control. Chosen one, your inner posture has changed, and heaven responds to posture. This is why you're noticing subtle confirmations, small signs, unexpected peace, a calm certainty you can't explain. Those are not coincidences. They are confirmations that the season has turned. Scripture speaks of a time appointed, where though the vision may seem delayed, it will surely come at the right moment. That moment does not rush. It arrives complete, and when it arrives, it carries momentum. Momentum is building now. You may feel it as anticipation without anxiety, expectation without pressure, readiness without restlessness. That's how you know this shift is real. False seasons stir fear. True seasons produce peace. Anointed one, peace is the signal. What's about to open will not require you to beg, strive, or overextend. You won't need to prove your worth. Doors will open because alignment recognizes alignment. People will respond because timing is synchronized. Provision will flow because purpose is activated. This is how supernatural transfer works. It doesn't arrive with panic, it arrives with precision. And let me ground this for a moment, because this isn't just spiritual language, it's lived reality. I've watched moments where years of stagnation broke with one decision, one yes, one step taken without overthinking. One moment of obedience that unlocked resources, connections, and clarity that effort alone never could. Those moments didn't come when I was frantic, they came when I was still. Chosen one. Stillness is not passivity. Stillness is trust in motion. Right now, heaven is aligning conversations, timing, and resources behind the scenes. You don't see it yet, but you will. And when you do, you'll realize the silence wasn't absence, it was orchestration. This is why you don't need to explain yourself anymore. Why you don't need to defend your journey. Why you don't need to rush the reveal. What God is about to do will speak for itself. And here's something important. This shift will not look like what you imagined years ago. It will be better, but different, cleaner, wiser, more sustainable, because the old version of the dream couldn't hold the new version of you. In the next part, we're going to talk about the nature of the transfer itself, what is being released, why it's coming quietly, and how to stay aligned so nothing leaks. Stay with me. This is where preparation turns into possession. Chosen one, when heaven releases something sacred, it rarely announces it loudly. Divine transfers do not arrive with noise, they arrive with precision. And what is moving toward you now is not dramatic on the surface, but it is irreversible in the spirit. This is where many people misunderstand how God moves. They expect the shift to feel explosive, emotional, or overwhelming. But the most powerful transfers often come quietly. So quietly that if you're not discerning, you might miss that anything has changed at all. but something has changed. The reason this transfer is moving in silence is because it is protected. Loud seasons attract interference. Quiet seasons carry authority. God does not expose what is still being sealed. You may have noticed that you're speaking less about your plans, explaining less, posting less, even dreaming more privately. That's not withdrawal, it's wisdom. Heaven has drawn a perimeter around what's forming, and that perimeter is intentional, chosen. What is transferring to you now is not just provision, it is capacity. Capacity to handle increase without anxiety. Capacity to steward resources without guilt. Capacity to stand in favor without shrinking. Capacity to say no without fear. Capacity to say yes without self-betrayal. That is why this season feels different from previous breakthroughs. Before, you received things faster than you could hold them. You celebrated, but you also stressed. You gained, but you also worried. This time, the weight fits. God is not just giving you more, He is giving you room. There is a quiet recalibration happening inside you. Your nervous system is settling. Your thoughts are slowing. Your reactions are softening. That's not coincidence. Heaven is stabilizing you, so what comes doesn't overwhelm you. I want to say this clearly. This transfer is not a reward for performance. It is a response to endurance. You stayed when it would have been easier to leave. You believed when there was no evidence. You kept your integrity when shortcuts were available. You didn't harden, even when disappointment tried to make you cynical. Heaven records those things. And now, the exchange is happening. What drained you is being replaced with what sustains you. What confused you is being replaced with clarity. What you chased before is now approaching you. This is how divine promotion works. It doesn't chase attention, it attracts alignment. Chosen one, you are not being elevated into visibility first, you are being elevated into stability. Visibility will come later, stability comes first. That's why you may feel less reactive to opinions, less shaken by delays, less moved by comparison. God has removed the need to prove yourself because proof is no longer required. Your worth has settled, and when worth settles, provision follows. You're also entering a season where help arrives without you asking, where support shows up organically, where conversations open doors without effort. That's not luck, that's alignment releasing favor. Scripture speaks of a time when God says, "At the right time, I will act." That right time is not measured by calendars, it's measured by readiness. And readiness is not about perfection, it's about trust. Chosen one, trust is now your posture. That's why you're being instructed inwardly instead of externally. You're sensing nudges instead of hearing commands. God is treating you like a son, not a servant. Like a steward, not a worker. This transfer is relational, not transactional. And because it's relational, it's protected from manipulation. No one can take what God is placing into your hands now. No one can outpace what is aligned for you. No one can counterfeit what has been authorized. You may notice that some people can't access you the way they used to. Some conversations no longer go anywhere. Some doors simply closed without explanation. That wasn't loss, it was clearance. Heaven was making space. Space for clarity, space for peace, space for provision, space for authority. And here's something important. Do not rush to define what's happening. Let it unfold, let it settle, let it breathe. God is building something sustainable, not spectacular. The spectacular will come, but it will rest on something solid. In the next part, we're going to talk about how to protect this transfer, what to avoid, what to lean into, and how to stay aligned so this season doesn't shorten. Stay here. The silence is purposeful. Chosen one. The most critical phase of any divine transfer is not the release, it is the protection. What heaven has begun in your life does not need force, effort, or striving to grow. It needs alignment. It needs awareness. It needs restraint. This is where many people unintentionally interrupt what God has initiated, not through rebellion, but through impatience, through overexposure, through explaining what was never meant to be explained yet. Hear this clearly. Not everything God gives you is meant to be shared immediately. Some blessings are public, others are incubated. You are currently in an incubation season. This is why the Spirit has been urging you to slow down, to pause before responding, to think before committing, to sit with decisions instead of rushing into them. That's not fear. That's discernment being sharpened. When something is holy, it doesn't rush, it rests. Chosen one, the enemy does not attack what he doesn't recognize as a threat. The reason you may feel subtle pressure now, distractions, emotional fatigue, sudden doubts, is because what's forming in you carries weight, not loud weight, quiet authority. So let me guide you gently here, as someone who has learned this the hard way. One of the fastest ways people lose momentum in a new season is by over-talking it, by announcing plans too early, by seeking validation before the thing is fully formed, by letting too many voices into something that God intended to shape privately. This season requires fewer explanations and more obedience. You don't need to convince anyone of what God is doing. The fruit will speak when it's ready, and fruit that ripens too early is easily bruised. Protect your peace first. Peace is the indicator that you are aligned. When peace leaves, it's not always because something is wrong. It's often because something is premature. Learn to honor the pause. Chosen one, you may also notice that old temptations are resurfacing, old habits knocking, old thought patterns whispering, go back, this is familiar, that's not coincidence. That's the past testing whether it still has access to you. It doesn't, but you must reinforce that truth with action. Protection in this season looks like saying no to what drains you. Even if it used to feel normal, it looks like resting without guilt. It looks like choosing quality over quantity in relationships, commitments, even goals. God is narrowing your focus on purpose. Not everything deserves your energy now. Another way you protect this transfer is by honoring small instructions, not dramatic ones, small ones. The nudge to go to bed earlier, the feeling to delay a decision, the sense to reach out or not reach out to someone. These subtle instructions are not random. They are how heaven steers you without force. Scripture reminds us that there is a time for everything, a season for every purpose under heaven. That means timing matters just as much as action. Doing the right thing at the wrong time can still cost you peace. Chosen one, let timing lead you. You may also feel a strange mix of emotions right now, gratitude and grief at the same time. Gratitude for what's coming, grief for what's ending. That's normal. You're transitioning. Something old is dissolving as something new takes shape. Don't rush to numb that feeling. Let it pass through you. Emotional honesty is part of spiritual maturity. You're not losing anything essential. You're shedding what can't go with you. Another key to protection is humility, not insecurity, but groundedness. The kind that doesn't need applause. The kind that stays teachable. The kind that remembers where it came from without living there. Pride disrupts flow. Gratitude sustains it. Keep thanking God even before you see the full picture. Gratitude keeps your heart open and your posture aligned. And listen closely here. Do not measure this season by speed. Some things are happening quickly behind the scenes while appearing slow externally. Roots grow before branches. Foundations settle before structures rise. What feels like stillness is often stabilization. Chosen one, God is anchoring you, so when increase comes, it doesn't uproot you. You may also notice that your desires are changing. What once excited you no longer satisfies. What once felt urgent now feels optional. That's not boredom, that's elevation. Your taste is changing because your assignment is changing. Let that be okay. You don't have to force enthusiasm for what no longer fits. You're allowed to outgrow seasons without demonizing them. Protection also means guarding your words. This is not the season to speak casually about your future. Speak intentionally, speak life, speak alignment. Words are not just expressions, they are agreements. Be mindful of what you agree with verbally. Even jokes carry weight in sensitive seasons. Speak as someone who knows something is forming, even if you can't see it yet. Chosen one, you don't need to watch every sign obsessively. Trust the process. If something is meant for you, it will not bypass you. If something is not, it will not stick. Rest in that truth. This is not a fragile season, it is a sacred one. And sacred things require reverence, not rush. In the next part, we're going to talk about what begins to manifest outwardly as this transfer settles inwardly. How your environment, opportunities, and relationships start to shift in tangible ways. Stay with me. You're learning how to carry what God has placed in your hands. Chosen one, there comes a moment when what has been forming quietly on the inside begins to show on the outside, not all at once, not explosively, but unmistakably. This is that phase, the moment when alignment becomes visible. You may already be noticing small changes around you, conversations shifting, people responding differently, opportunities appearing that feel oddly timed, yet perfectly placed. These are not random events. They are echoes of what heaven has already adjusted in the unseen. Here is a truth many don't realize. When God changes your position, your environment eventually has to respond. You didn't force these shifts. You didn't manipulate outcomes. You didn't chase validation. You aligned. And alignment creates movement without striving. This is where life starts to feel lighter, not because everything is perfect, but because resistance has weakened. The same tasks don't drain you the way they used to. The same problems don't shake you as deeply. You're responding instead of reacting. That's evidence of authority settling in. Chosen one of the clearest signs of an outward shift is that favor starts replacing friction. Doors that once felt heavy begin to open with ease. Not because you suddenly became more qualified, but because the timing changed. Timing is everything in the kingdom. You may receive invitations you didn't ask for, messages that feel divinely timed, ideas that arrive fully formed. These are not coincidences. These are confirmations that the internal work has taken root. And here's something important. When this happens, resist the urge to overanalyze it. Don't ask, why now? Ask, how do I steward this well? Because this season is not about speed, it's about sustainability. Another outward sign is relational clarity. Some connections will naturally deepen without effort. Others will quietly fade without conflict. You won't feel the need to chase or confront. You'll simply know. That knowing is discernment, maturing. God is reorganizing your relational landscape to match your next assignment. Not everyone from your old season can walk with you into a new one, and that doesn't mean they were bad. It means seasons change. Chosen one, let transitions happen without guilt. You may also notice an increase in respect, not necessarily admiration, but recognition. People listening more closely, valuing your words, seeking your input. That's not ego, that's alignment producing influence. Influence comes when your life speaks before you do, and influence is part of the transfer. This is also where provision begins to shift, not always as sudden wealth, but as stability, as margin, as less anxiety around money. as ideas that generate income instead of consuming energy. God often restores peace around provision before increasing provision itself, because peace is the real upgrade. You might find yourself thinking differently about money, not as something to chase, but as something to steward. That mindset change is critical. It ensures that when more comes, it stays. Chosen one, there may also be moments where the past tries to reassert itself. Old fears, old voices, old patterns. Not because you're failing, but because the old identity is realizing it's losing authority. Don't argue with it. Don't panic. Simply don't respond. Silence is power in this phase. You don't need to prove you've changed. You don't need to announce growth. You just keep moving forward in alignment. Another outward sign is emotional steadiness, not numbness, clarity. You feel deeply, but you're not overwhelmed by feelings. You can sit with discomfort without spiraling. You can hold joy without fear of losing it. That's emotional maturity catching up to spiritual growth. And it's essential for what's next. Chosen one, you may also sense that your prayers are different now. Less begging, more listening, less urgency, more trust. That's because you're no longer praying from lack, you're praying from alignment. Scripture speaks of a time when God responds before you finish speaking. That doesn't mean instant gratification. It means relational closeness. It means the conversation has shifted. You're not pleading for attention. You already have it. As the outward shift continues, you may feel moments of unfamiliarity, almost like you don't fully recognize your own life yet. That's normal. You're adjusting to a new level of peace, authority, and expectation. Let yourself acclimate. Don't rush to fill every quiet space. Stillness is part of integration. Chosen one, here is something vital. As things begin to improve, guard against self-blame for the past. Do not look back and say, "If only I had known sooner." You knew when you were ready. Everything happened in sequence for a reason. The delays, the detours, the waiting, they shaped your capacity. Without them, this season would overwhelm you. You're not late, you're precise. And now, what's unfolding around you is simply catching up to what heaven already settled. In the next part, we will talk about identity, how this transfer reshapes how you see yourself, and why embracing that new identity is essential to walking fully into what God has prepared. Stay with me, chosen one. You're stepping into visibility with wisdom, chosen one. Every divine transfer comes with a quiet question from heaven. Are you willing to live as the person this season needs you to be? Not who you were when you prayed for it, not who you were when you were surviving, but who you are becoming now. This is where many transitions feel uncomfortable, not because something is wrong, but because identity is adjusting. Blessings don't just change circumstances, they confront self-perception. You may notice moments where your old reactions don't fit anymore. Old coping mechanisms feel awkward. Old labels don't land the same. That's not confusion, that's growth. God is not just changing your situation. He is recalibrating how you see yourself. Chosen one. For a long time, you learned to function in endurance mode. You learned how to stay alert, how to anticipate disappointment, how to prepare for loss even in good moments. That posture kept you alive, but it will not take you forward. This season requires a different posture, receiving without bracing. That can feel vulnerable, because receiving requires trust. It means believing that good can arrive without being taken away. That peace can stay. That stability doesn't have to be temporary. You may catch yourself waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's not lack of faith, it's memory. And memory doesn't disappear overnight. It gets healed through experience. So be patient with yourself. Chosen one. Identity shifts don't happen in a moment. They settle through repetition. Each time you choose peace over panic. Each time you rest without guilt. Each time you say no without explaining. Each time you receive help without shrinking. Those are not small moments. They are rehearsals for your future. This is why God doesn't just give blessings. He trains receivers. And right now, He is training you to receive well. You may feel a gentle but firm invitation to upgrade how you carry yourself. Not in arrogance, but in assurance. Standing straighter, speaking clearer, deciding faster, leaving situations sooner when they don't align. That's not pride. That's authority becoming embodied. Authority is quiet. It doesn't demand. It doesn't chase. It doesn't react. It chooses. Chosen one, this is also where discernment sharpens. You're not just asking, is this good, anymore. You're asking, is this aligned? Something can be good and still not be yours. This clarity is protecting your future. I want to ground this again because identity shifts can feel isolating. There were moments in my own journey where growth felt lonely, not because people disappeared, but because I was no longer resonating at the same frequency. Conversations felt shallow, old jokes felt heavy, old patterns felt loud. At first, I thought something was wrong with me. Nothing was wrong. I was changing. And so are you. Chosen one, you are not becoming distant. You are becoming intentional. That means you don't owe everyone access to your energy, your thoughts, your plans. Sacred things require boundaries. Even Jesus withdrew to pray, to rest, to recalibrate. Withdrawal is not weakness, it's wisdom. As identity stabilizes, you'll notice something powerful. Your confidence will no longer need validation. You won't need constant reassurance. You'll trust your discernment because it has been proven in pressure. And when confidence stabilizes, comparison dissolves. You won't need to measure yourself against others. Their pace won't threaten you. Their success won't rush you. Their opinions won't move you. Because you'll know what season you're in. Chosen one, this is where you stop apologizing for outgrowing things. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop justifying your peace. You don't need permission to protect what God is building. Identity in this season is not about doing more. It's about being more grounded. Grounded in truth, grounded in peace, grounded in purpose. This is why God is inviting you to simplify, to release excess, to let go of what no longer reflects who you are becoming. Not because those things were bad, but because they are complete. And completion deserves closure, not clinging. As this identity settles, your decisions will carry more weight. Your yes will matter. Your no will be respected. Your presence will feel steady, not scattered. That's leadership. Leadership doesn't always look like influence over others. Sometimes it looks like influence over self. And that is what heaven has been cultivating in you. In the final part, we will talk about integration, how to live forward from this moment without losing momentum, how to remain aligned long-term, and how to walk confidently into what God has already authorized. Stay here, chosen one. You are not just entering a new season, you are becoming the person who can sustain it. Chosen one, this is where everything converges, not in noise, not in spectacle, but in integration. Integration is when what God has done in you becomes how you live through you. This is the moment you stop waiting for confirmation and begin walking in agreement. Agreement is powerful. Agreement doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means your inner posture matches heaven's decision, and heaven has already decided concerning you. So now, the question is not, will it happen? The question is, how will you carry it? Carry it with reverence, not anxiety. Carry it with gratitude, not pressure. Carry it with obedience, not obsession. Chosen one. The greatest mistake people make after a breakthrough is trying to recreate the feeling instead of stewarding the reality. Feelings come and go, alignment stays. Your responsibility now is not to chase intensity, but to maintain consistency. This is where simple practices matter. Begin your days grounded, not rushed, not reactive. Speak life before you scroll. Breathe before you decide. Ask, what is aligned today, instead of what is urgent. Urgency exhausts. Alignment sustains. There will be days when nothing dramatic happens, and those days are not failures, they are foundations. God builds futures quietly, one aligned decision at a time. Chosen one, you don't need to announce what's happening, you don't need to convince anyone. The fruit will mature, the evidence will surface. What is sealed by God does not need marketing. Protect your rhythm. Rest when your body asks. Pause when your spirit signals. Move when peace leads. These are not luxuries, they are instructions. The faster the season, the more important the rhythm. Remember this, you are not behind because you are not rushing. You are ahead because you are aligned. There may be moments when old fears try to resurface. Whispers of scarcity, memories of disappointment, habits of self-doubt. When that happens, don't panic, don't wrestle. Just remind yourself, that season is complete. Completion does not require explanation. Chosen one, you are allowed to enjoy this season. Enjoyment is not complacency, it's trust expressed through peace. God is not asking you to stay alert for loss.